And the reason we're talking about this, a lot of talk here, Dylan, because people feel like, yes, there are Second Amendment rights for sure, but also there are questions about whether this has racial overtones. I mean, here you have a man of color in the presidency and white people showing up with guns strapped to their waists or to their legs.
It sounds simplistic when you put it that way, but it is real.
Called the United States. So remember, they are spreading fear, and they're trying to see that the first president who looks like me fails.
It's a boycott. Now, some angry people are calling for a boycott of Whole Foods because the CEO of the company came out against President Obama's health care plan in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. The CEO suggested a different plan. But now people who support the Whole Foods CEO are fighting back against the boycotters of Whole Foods, calling for a boycott of the company. Okay, what's a boycott? Joining us live is Dana Lash from the St. Louis Tea Party Coalition. Lash is co-organizer of the Whole Foods boycott. Okay, Dana, what's a boycott?
Greta, thanks for having me back again. A boycott is the exact opposite of a boycott. We're not going to punish Whole Foods by withholding our dollars. In fact, we're going to go and support them because they have stood up for free market principles. So we got a bunch of people together, we went to Whole Foods and we dropped some dollar bills and we got some really good groceries.
All right, so tell me, where was this Whole Foods you went to, and give me an idea how many people were there, what was said, what was the reaction?
Yeah. The Whole Foods that we went to today in particular was the Town and Country Whole Foods. There's a couple different locations here in St. Louis. And today just was sort of the kickstart to what is going to be a rolling boycott across the country. I know Dallas, Texas also had one. I think there was a city in Arizona that also had a boycott. But before, everything started at 6 o'clock. And within the first 30 minutes, we already had over 300 people. And the lines were packed. There were no more carts left at all. The lines at the registers were super long. The aisles were crammed. It was fantastic. And what I thought was really cool, too, is we had a bunch of people that were in there and they were getting really good food. And they were also talking with each other about why they were there. They had all read John Mackey's editorial in the Wall Street Journal. They all thought that the points that he gave were fantastic. And they were absolutely flabbergasted as to why anybody would stand up and want to punish this guy simply because he just had a difference of opinion, because he had an alternative viewpoint. And that's exactly what the president had asked for during his campaign. He was like, if you have different ideas, I want to hear them. Well, John Mackey gave a different idea, so why is he being punished? And it was a lot of really good conversation going on. So it was a really cool experience.
Did anyone say, I've never been to a Whole Foods before, I'm just here because I'm supporting John Mackey, or were these sort of just regulars?
It was kind of like half and half. There were half of the group were people who had gone to Whole Foods before but didn't do so maybe regularly, and then the other half were like, we had never actually been here before because we thought that it was just really maybe hippified, and they loved what Whole Foods had to offer, and they went there and they're like, you know what, we're going to make it a habit to come here every week or at least twice or 3 times a month and really incorporate Whole Foods into our buying routine because of John Mackey went out on a limb for everybody, and we're going to support that.
Were there any people outside the store boycotting the store?
There weren't. There was one guy in an Obama shirt. There was only one guy who was wearing an Obama t-shirt, and that was it. I was kind of disappointed. I thought that there would be more people because we had unions protesting the Whole Foods just last week, and we thought because of that maybe perhaps there would be some people that would turn out to boycott our boycott, but nobody did. There was one lone guy. So I had to give him credit for showing up.
I take it that you would like to see more. I assume that you didn't do this as a one-time deal, but that you have some sort of strategy in mind. Or maybe this is a one-time deal, but in the event that you want to do this again or make it bigger, what's the plan?
We would like to see this happen nationwide. St. Louis today was just the start of all of it, and we know that there's a lot of other Tea Party groups in other cities that are organizing right now to do the exact same thing that we and Dallas, Texas did today. So we see that it's going to be a rolling boycott, and not just that, but it's not just going to be Whole Foods either. A lot of small business owners are now stepping up to the plate. John Mackey, we had Dave MacArthur of MacArthur's Bakery here. We had Tim Surdike, who's another small business owner here. All of these guys are coming forward, and they're saying, you know what? we support free market principles. We don't think that the government needs to micromanage everything. And we see that. We want to support that. And it's not just with Whole Foods. It's with any small business owner that takes a stand for capitalism, basically, for free market principles, for just having the government not micromanaging our lives. We will go out and support them for standing up and doing what's right.
Dana, thank you.
Thanks so much, Greta.
Will any of this affect Whole Foods in the long run? Join us live is Steve Moore, senior economics writer for the Wall Street Journal editorial page. You know, Steve, I'm one beat off all these people a little bit. Like, the problem I have with the bill on Capitol Hill health care is I just don't think you can understand it, so I don't think you'd be for it or against someone beat off. With John Mackey, who's the CEO of Whole Foods, it's not so much that he has a plan that's different from the president. I'm just appalled that here's a guy who has been so good to his employees, and all he's saying is that try my plan, and that there's, he has an idea and there's a backlash against his expression.
Right.
He's not like he's a pig of any sort.
The way this story has evolved is really pretty incredible. Remember when the boycott was first announced, when we first talked about this, the people at Whole Foods were very freaked out about it. They were very defensive, and they said John Mackey, those are his personal opinions, not the company's, and so on. And what's happened in the last week or two is that a couple things. One is the boycott has fizzled. There's no evidence that this has hurt the company. If you look at the stock price, it's been pretty level. It hasn't hurt the stock. If you look at the company sales, they're not down. And in fact, as you just heard, in a lot of stores, the sales are up. And so there's no evidence right now that this has hurt the company. In fact, I got an email that was sent to a friend of mine who I know John Mackey a little bit, and John basically said, you know what, this was actually turned out to be good publicity for our company, and in fact, we're doing better than ever now.
Well, the peculiar thing about it, out of all the people who've come up with ideas for health care reform, and I don't know if his idea is the great one, he's the one who actually, put his money where his mouth, put his mouth where his money, whatever the expression is, because he's actually run a business. He hasn't been sitting on Capitol Hill just sort of thinking about it, thinking about what to do. It's almost like the ER doctor. Here's a guy who has run a business and said, here's how to do it.
It's a great point.
And I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but we should at least listen to him.
Well, it is a good idea. I mean, the truth is, if you look at John Mackey as an employer, I mean, this guy is a good corporate citizen. I mean, he pays his workers higher than the union workers receive. He provides excellent medical benefits for his workers. Now, you would think this is exactly what the union...
And he doesn't even take a salary. He doesn't take a salary. He said, I've made enough money, so he hasn't taken one since 2007.
So here's the amazing part of the story. You would think the unions would be embracing someone like this. He pays high wages. He pays good benefits. He treats his workers well. And yet, what are the unions now have actually, a couple of the unions now have joined this boycott against him because they don't like some of his ideas. But why not embrace his ideas? He's actually found a way to reduce health care costs and cover his workers.
But even if he had a dumb idea, here's a guy who really is trying, who's a good business person. He is one of sort of the, from what I can see so far. I haven't done an exhaustive study of his business, but here's a guy who actually is trying to do the right thing.
Exactly.
And he gets punched right in the nose because he has a different idea and doesn't agree with the wisdom or lack thereof of someone else.
Well, he has the practical experience, as you said, of running a company. He's a major employer of thousands of workers. He's done all the right things. And the fact that the left has this kind of visceral hatred of anyone who speaks out with any alternative ideas to the public option.
I think he's a lefty, though.
Yeah, well, that's the other interesting thing.
He's a lefty.
As I said, I've debated John Mackey. I mean, he's a friend, but he and I hardly agree on a lot of things. And in fact, he thinks CEOs are paid too high and so on. But the point is that this is the guy who has done the right thing, and now people become unhinged because he has alternative ideas.
This is not a complainer. This is a guy who says, "Try this." Here's my idea. But anyway, we'll see.
The good news is his company is doing fine, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see these boycotters outnumbering the boycotters, so this turns out to be a net asset for the company. And that's what happens when you write a piece for the Wall Street Journal.
There's a plug for the Wall Street Journal. Of course, they probably pay part of my salary now, too, because you're in our corporate family now. Anyway, Steve, thank you.